There are many different weapons within Space Marines too. Many that people probably don't think are viable, but honestly, the variety is important to a guy like me. I don't want to just be sitting there using the same two weapons, three weapons because they're the best of the best, you know? I'm trying to seek out the fun stuff, the stuff not a lot of people will be using. Matter of fact, I've seen quite literally less than a handful of people use this weapon on the Vanguard. Everybody just uses the Melta, of course. I know I praised that thing before, but it's almost too easy to just pick that and just go to town, obviously. There's such a vast array of weapons that many people won't experience because they just follow what's the best, quote unquote. This is one of those weapons that is a very solid option when you actually learn it a bit more. I mean, just listen to this kitty purr. I mean, goddamn, she is beautiful, okay? That shit rocks, okay? Just on sound alone, this weapon is something to use because it just has that heft behind it, alright? It feels like a bolt gun. That's the thing about these weapons is that some of them don't feel as hefty as they should. This thing feels decent enough where it's kind of a good all-rounder at the mid-ranges and even sometimes at long ranges. It's a reliable weapon that can get the job done, okay? If I was going to compare it to like a real-life counterpart, it'd be like an AK-47, okay? Thing you can put through hell, but it will get the job done for you. This kind of weapon is something you want at your side when the shit hits the fan because it will guide you through it. Not always, easy with crowds, but honestly, it can take care of them pretty decently. I mean, I use the upgraded one that has just a little bit of stability on top of everything, and that helps with staying on headshots in crowds against chaos and even the Tyranids. It's just, I'm a guy that hasn't really been a big fan of three burst rifles ever since the Halo days. I mean, a battle rifle is the only goddamn burst you can see me using out there, but this thing gives me the same kind of vibes where it's a good enough or decent enough weapon, depending on how you look at it, where you could just use it everywhere and it would be fine, honestly. It wouldn't hurt. I'd say it is the most painful in a terminus level enemy or a boss level encounter, but like, you're gonna say no to good, decent DPS on something? I'm not. Even if it's just a small amount of ticks each time, that shit adds up, and it actually does matter in the scheme of things. Sure, you could just have a heavy with the multi-mill to just destroy everything before you can even do anything, but like, not everybody wants to just use the best of the best, of course. And as you can see in a lot of the footage here, half the time I don't even get to use it because it's not a close quarter weapon. It really isn't. It's meant for that mid to long range, hence why it has a goddamn scope on it. But it can be used at any range you want to. It's just dependent on how, I don't know, how crazy you can be with it, or like, I don't know, maybe how desperate the situation is. Who knows? Everything's contextual. It's only you that can decide if the thing's actually worth a damn at the end of the day anyway, so this is really just a guy like, hey, give it a shot. It may actually surprise you. The thing isn't the best of the best, but it could easily be, I don't know, if it was like a tier kind of list, it would be like in a B or an A, in my opinion, because it actually is decent. Like I said it multiple times already, it's not the best, but, you don't need the best to get the job done all the time, okay? It's about the feel of a weapon. It's about what it says to you when you use it at times, too. How it feels in your hand is more important than any statistical thing it has, okay? I'll say it. But not everybody sees it that way, so people will just overlook a gem like this kind of thing and just use the Melta or use a completely different class in general because, something like tactical has many, many other options. But let me tell you, as a guy that plays with the intent of his loadout having harmony, this is the kind of weapon that slots right on into a decent loadout. Because if you have a good knife, or you're good at melee in general, or your pistol is decent, you have options covered. That's why you see me doing more melee than anything half the time in here. It's because they just won't let me use the actual weapon I want to at ranges. But when I do get to, it actually does shred when you stay on point if you have decent aim. The only real problem with it can be the ammo count. And they do have an upgrade path for that, but I felt like if you add extra ammo but not that much damage and stuff, does it equal out to having the same amount of default ammo but it being harder hitting or easier to control? I don't really know if I'm going to be honest with you. Usually if I'm going to take that option, I'm going to go with the heavier hitting but like still default value ammo. I mean, I don't know. I haven't really seen any instances yet where it's worth nerfing your firepower just a tiny bit just for extra ammo overall. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If you can make the ammo count, why would it matter in the first place? But I don't know. That's something you yourself will have to decide at the end of the day. Whether or not you end up trying the thing, what variant you go with, yada yada. I'm not your dad. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but I will tell you it's at least decent. You know? Like, smell the roses a bit and try something else every now and then, folks. It doesn't hurt. You'd be surprised what you can find out there. Like, a lot of this footage, I'm trying the balance knife. It is so quick to hit stuff. That's awesome. I actually think I like that a little bit more than the fencing one, and we'll see at the end of the day how I end up falling on it, because I've only used it a little bit, but that paired with something at the mid range, like the Instigator, is really goddamn good, actually, because you can cover everything you need to cover, and there are decent options at that ranges. It just. Hordes will get the best use sometimes if you aren't careful. It's just something that comes with time and using a gun that isn't fully automatic or the heaviest hitting one shot kind of weapons like a sniper has or any other Melta class will have. I mean, melee guys kind of know it. They know how to deal with just a pistol, for example, in their melees. So, like, why couldn't you, like, transfer those kind of skills from one class to another? You know what I'm saying? It's definitely not a flashy weapon. I'll tell you that. It's not gonna, get you laid or anything for using this thing. It'll just be for funsies, this kind of weapon. And it does hold its own, in my opinion. I mean, I haven't tried the third weapon the Vanguard gets, but, it shoots a little slower, I think, than this thing, so it might hit harder. We'll see, I don't know, but this one's definitely, as far as bolt guns go so far, it's the best one the Vanguard can have that I know of so far, of course. Haven't tried the third one, like I said, but it's literally this or a Melta, people. Like, come on. You have three goddamn options. So you might as well explore them and not just use one of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. You're taking a lot of the experience out of it for yourself if you do that. You miss out on just so much of that magic that goes into some of these weapons. I couldn't imagine still just using the Melta after 100 hours in a game. Sure, it's fun, but where's the pizzazz, the extra little bit of spiciness? I don't know. I guess I just need that little bit of extra variety. It's good to know your options and know that you don't just have two or three things you can use to succeed. It also is good to know that you don't have to rely on such things all the time to actually do decently. It's definitely a learning curve, though, when you try to use something like non fencing weapons or, you know, burst over full auto or single shot over full auto in a horde shooter kind of game. Yeah, It'll take some getting used to, take some learning, but it isn't that bad once you get used to these things, I'm gonna be honest. So, at the end of the day, try it out or don't, it's alright. But if you do and you like it, props to you. You have a little bit more class in you, I suppose. I don't know, but see if you like it, folks. It may actually surprise you. It surprised me at least. I wasn't used to any three bursts being decent in games recently, so it was a nice little surprise, honestly.